Today, we will share the stories of some well-known Holocaust survivors. Some survivors are still living and some have passed away. Their stories have been written in books, films, documentaries, and also can be seen in museums all over the world. Sadly, as time goes on, there are fewer and fewer Holocaust survivors remaining to tell their stories. It is up to all of us to remember those unfortunate victims who never had a chance to tell their tale. It is up to all of us here today to make sure that the Holocaust does not happen again. Never again.
paratrooper in the Palestine underground. I joined a secret mission into Europe to gather information about the Nazis' plans to invade other countries. I was caught. I was imprisoned. I was convicted, and I was tried for treason. I was executed on November 7th, 1944 in Hungary. My remains were brought to Israel in 1950. The village of Yad Hannah is named for me. I am Hannah Sinesh. Will you remember me?
We will remember you.
I was 14 years of age when I was separated from my family. I was sent to a concentration camp along with my father. My father did not make it. I lived. My father never survived the horrors of the camp, but I was a normal teenager just like you. I went to Hebrew. I became a bar mitzvah. I enjoyed sports and holiday celebrations, and even played hooky from school. Now I am 83 years old. Now, and still thinking and remembering about those who perished. So sad. So sad. I have dedicated my life to writing about the Holocaust. We all have a moral responsibility to fight hatred, racism, genocide, and injustice to humanity. I'm a teacher. I am a writer. I am a humanitarian. And I am a survivor. I have written over 36 books. I can never forget what happened to the Jews. I will not. You can read my story in a book called Night. My name is Elie Wiesel. Will you remember me?
My brothers and I were part of a group of people who fought back. We resisted. We were in the underground movement, partisans. That's what they called us. We were not going to stand by and do nothing. We were going to strike back in every way possible. We escaped along with thousands of other resistors, deep, deep in the German forest. We set up camps and planned our own methods of attack. The winters were cold. We were very hungry. But we were determined to survive. Defiance. That's the name of the book and the film that was written about us. We would never surrender. My brothers and I fought the enemy and then retreated back into the forest. We had to. Our story was made into a movie. Have you seen it? The Holocaust Museum in St. Petersburg featured our story. We resisted. We fought back. We were the Bilski brothers. Will you remember us?
You've heard my story It's not a new one. Life in a jar. I saved 25 Jewish Polish children. I smuggled them out of the Warsaw ghetto in wagons, wheelbarrows, suitcases, boxes, coffins, ambulances, push carts, garbage cans. So dangerous. So many children, and so little time. I took many chances. I knew that saving these children was the right thing to do, the only thing to do. Now, do you remember me? I am the old woman who wrote each child's name on a piece of paper and buried it in a jar. Then I hid the jars. I am not Jewish. See the Star of David armband that I wear to show my support for the Jewish people. I could have done more. I tried to do more. We all could have done more to save the children. I am Irina Sendler. Will you remember me?
I knew so many of you out there. I always had a handful of chocolate in my pockets. Give me 5. I gave you chocolate kisses. I was one of the lucky ones. I was put on a kinder sport, a train of refugees and homeless kids. We left our families, our friends, everything we owned, just to escape the war. My entire family disappeared, gone. I never saw them again. But an angel entered my life and brought me and other boys like me, refugee children, to the United States. I worked hard, bought a gas station, married, had a family. But I always thought about the thousands and thousands of others who could not escape. I could not rest. I needed to do my part. I joined the army, a combat unit, and fought back. See, Bronze Star? I earned it. My name is Hans Krieger. Do you remember me? Will you remember me?
I am not Jewish. I am Swedish, and I am a Christian. There were many like me, people who could not tolerate the evil and wickedness that the Nazis brought upon the Jewish people. Righteous among the nations, that's what they call us. Many of us tried to help the Jews during the Holocaust. Many of us lost our own lives trying to save the Jews. I worked for the Swedish government in Hungary. I provided fake IDs and passports, food, and safe housing for Jews. I did my best. My name is among hundreds of names listed in Yad Vashem, the Holocaust memorial for the 6 million in Jerusalem. They say I either disappeared or was sent far away, arrested, and maybe killed. What difference does it make? My story is being told and retold. I'm Raoul Wallenberg. Will you remember me?
You know who I am. My story has been read and told over and over again. They found my diary in an attic behind a bookcase, in a secret hidden place. My We never went outside. We never saw daylight. I could never enjoy the things a young girl would. I had to whisper if I had something to say. I had to remain still if I heard voices from the store downstairs. It was lonely and it was silent. I was happy to have my secret diary. I planned to become a writer when I grew up. Books were my best friends. I never had a chance to write about the things I dreamt about, the faraway places, the people, and the life that I wanted to have. But then our hiding place was found. I remember the knock on the door. The police arrested us on August 1945. My older sister Margaret and I were sent to a concentration camp. We both died there. You know the rest. My diary was found. It was published into 30 different languages. You know my story. You know who I am. My name is Anne Frank. Will you remember me?
This book is different. Different from all the others that you have heard today. It has pages, but they are blank. The pages have nothing written on them. There are no page numbers. There are no written words, no photos, no poems, and no one left you know to tell their stories. This book we call Zachor, to remember. It belongs to the 6 million Jews and the 2 million children who lost their lives in the Holocaust. This book, Zachor, could never end up on the bestseller list. The Holocaust victims never had a chance to talk about what happened to them. Those were very terrible and frightening years, from 1939 to 1945. The victims never had a chance to tell the world about their families, their friends, their schooling, their dreams, and their hopes for the future. Zachor's empty pages are filled with sadness and tears. Now, it is up to us. We need to keep the memory of those who perished in our minds, in our hearts, and in our souls. Yes, it is up to all of us and the entire world to make sure that the Holocaust never happens again. Never again. We must not forget. We must remember. Let us pray for the lives that were lost. Let us pray and say together, never again. We will remember you.
Ani
was sung to uplift the spirits of our Jewish brothers and sisters who were on their way to the death camps. Amen. Amen.
The Hebrew words, anima, amin, mean I believe. And the song or prayer, I think it's a prayer more than a song, goes on to say, I believe with perfect faith in the coming of the Messiah. And what I think our ancestors meant when they sang that song, and what I think, at least what I feel that I mean when I sing that song or hear it sung, that song or prayer, is that someday people will reach their potential to be good all the time, all people. See, I believe God has created us to be both good and evil, to do good things and to do bad things. Most of us have the desire to do good things, and if we're honest with ourselves, to do bad things. Not horrible things like kill people, but other bad things, like be selfish, or lazy, or thoughtless, or insensitive. And some people even have the desire to do horrible things, like Adolf Hitler and his followers did during the time of the Holocaust. Most of the time, though, most people want to do good. And because most people want to do good most of the time, we can look forward to a time when maybe if everybody follows teachings like the teachings that are given to us in the Torah and in the rest of our Bible and in the Talmud, which is another set of Jewish holy books, then maybe someday everybody will be good, do good things all the time, and this will be a perfect world where nobody ever has to even worry about something like a Holocaust ever happening to anybody. Christians believe that someday that will happen because Jesus, whom they believe who they believe died but is going to come back to earth again, is going to come back to earth and make everything perfect. Judaism doesn't teach us to believe in Jesus. To us, he was just a regular person. And Judaism teaches that it's up to each of us to create this world, to create what we call a messianic age, where everybody does the best that God has enabled us to do. And when we sing that prayer, we're saying, we believe that we can do it, we believe that it can happen, and we're going to try through the way we live our lives to make sure that at least during our lifetimes, we get a little closer to making it happen. And the it that I'm talking about is creating this world where everybody tries to do good things all the time, and nobody ever does a bad thing. Now, the Holocaust was a horrible thing that happened. It happened because of a number of factors. People in Europe were suffering. They had no money, they had no food, and they needed somebody to blame their troubles on. And so their leaders picked the Jews to be their scapegoat. Scapegoat is a term we give to people whom we blame some of our problems on when it's really not their fault. And they picked the Jews probably because we believe that people have to be the Messiah, that people have to create the Messianic age, and that requires work. And a lot of people don't want to hear that they have a responsibility, that they have to work. We were telling them something that they didn't want to hear. And so instead of listening to us, even though what we told them was really important, they decided to blame us for their troubles. It was terrible. But that doesn't mean that we still shouldn't be Jews. Sometimes when I think about the Holocaust, I say to myself, how could anybody still want to be Jewish after that horrible thing? But then I think of lots of reasons why I still want to be Jewish. And I always promise myself that I'm going to stay Jewish all my life, and that I'm going to try to help everybody else who wants to be Jewish for all of their lives. One of the things that makes me want to be Jewish, even though the Holocaust occurred, is that I know that if I follow the teachings of Judaism, I can make a better life for myself and for everybody else in the world. That Judaism can help me be a better person. And there are lots of other reasons, and we'll talk about them at another time. Why do we have to remember? The Holocaust was a horrible thing. Why do we have to remember it? Why should we have Yom Hashoah celebrations? They're not celebrations, excuse me. Commemorations, services. They just make us sad. Why should we do this? Mr. Gold. Exactly. So it won't happen again. We don't want it to happen to anybody, not just to Jews. We Jews don't want a Holocaust to ever happen to any other human being, because Judaism teaches that every human being is God's child. We read that in the Torah, that every human being is precious. And one of the ways we can help make sure it doesn't happen again is by remembering. And so I hope you'll all wear these pins, not just today, but lots of days, maybe every day. You wear them when you go play with friends. Maybe you'll wear them to school. And if people ask you about them, you need to tell them that Zachor is the Hebrew word for remember. And we wear these pins, we Jews wear these pins to help us and other people remember what happened to our people during the Holocaust. And we remember so that maybe we can help prevent another Holocaust from ever happening to our people or to any people ever again. You learned about some heroes today. Hannah Senek, Elie Wiesel, the Bilski brothers, Irina Sendler, Mr. Hans. How many remember Mr. Hans? Wow. Raoul Wallenberg, Anne Frank. Someday, maybe you'll read the book Night if you haven't already read it by Elie Wiesel. It's a wonderful book. Someday, if you travel to Amsterdam in Holland, you'll have a chance to visit the house where Anne Frank had to hide and live for a while until the Nazis found her and took her to the concentration camps where she died. Someday, maybe you'll learn even more than you learned today, although I must say you learned a great deal today. And I thank everyone involved in this and everyone who planned it. But someday maybe you'll learn even more about all these wonderful people. Most of them were Jews, but two of them were not. Irina Sendler and Raoul Wallenberg were not Jews, but who took risks to make sure, or to try to make sure, that people were saved. And Elie Wiesel, whom I just heard speak here in St. Pete a few weeks ago, all his life has paid back. He thinks he's paying back humankind and God for having been saved by writing books that teach people to be the best they can be all the time, and that help people be the best they can be all the time. Thank you for participating, and every one of you, I watched. Everybody in this room participated so beautifully and so respectfully today, and I'm really grateful to all of you. Judaism teaches that when somebody dies, we continue to honor them by remembering them. Now, most of the victims of the Holocaust, probably all of the victims of the Holocaust, none of us ever knew personally, except Mr. Hans. We did know Mr. Hans. We still, as Jews, have a responsibility to honor the memory, even of people we didn't know personally. And we do that in a lot of ways. One was by sitting respectfully, as you did all morning. And the other is by saying the Kaddish prayer, which we're going to say now. I have my little folder. Your little folder? Thank you. Would everybody rise? May I have a prayer book? With this prayer, we thank God for the lives of people who have died, and we promise, as we say the prayer, we promise through the way we live the rest of our lives to bring a little of the goodness that these people who have died probably would have brought into the world had they been able to continue living. And that's one of our responsibilities, just as remembering is one of our responsibilities. And anybody who knows the prayer can say it along with me. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah ba'omah divarah pirutei v'amlich malchutei v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agalah uv'izman korim v'imru amen. Yehei shabei rabah mevorach le'olam le'omei omaya. Yitvarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudashah b'rihu le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiram ba'oma v'imaru. Amen. Yehei Shalom Rabbah min Shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru. Amen. Osei Shalom v'romach u'ya'asei Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru. Amen. remain standing. We're almost finished. Just for a second. And let's go to page 7. We're going to read responsibly. First, it's my turn. May all those who perished in the Holocaust and all those who died trying to save the lives of the innocent be remembered this day and always. Let us now remember them together for their bravery. May they be remembered for their compassion. May they be remembered for their loyalty. May they be remembered for their unselfishness. May they be remembered for their sacrifice. May they be remembered for their courage. May they be remembered for their resistance. We must tell their story. You know, Israel has been the homeland of the Jewish people for over 3,000 years. Unfortunately, for about 1,900 years, Israel was in the control of people other than Jews, and Jews weren't allowed to live there freely. And then recently, in fact, just a year before I was born, our people regained control of Israel. And Israel is now an independent Jewish country. Unfortunately, during the time of the Holocaust, Israel was not under the control of Jewish people. So Jews were not allowed by the people who were ruling Israel to escape to Israel. Had Israel been an independent Jewish country at the time of the Holocaust, Jews would have been able to escape from Europe, where the horrible Holocaust was going on. They would have been able to escape to Israel. And a lot of them, a lot of the 6 million, which as you've been told today, included over 1 million children, would have lived instead of having been murdered by the Nazis. But now we have Israel. And Israel is not only a place of refuge for Jewish people, it is also one of the most wonderful, most humane countries in the whole world. In the whole world. And Israel works to help all people, not just Jews. And we thank God we have Israel. And we thank the heroes, and we could fill up a table with other heroes who worked to help make Israel a free Jewish homeland and a place of goodness and decency for all humankind. We thank them as we sing Israel's national anthem, Ha'tikvah. And when we sing a national anthem of any country, if the country's flag is present, it's respectful to look at the flag. So let's look at the flag as I lead you in Ha'tikvah. Kol Leva Penima Nefesh Yehudi Homi